It is your post-daily news show for Monday, January the 31st. I am John Pollock, joined as always by Wai Ting, kicking off another week here at Post Wrestling. We will be live every day this week, as we are every weekday, Monday to Friday, your post-wrestling fix. Hello, Wai.
Hey, John, how you doing?
I'm doing great. We talked about this on Friday. I am all in on the Saturday night events with Sunday as a buffer day so that everyone can scream and get upset. And then Monday, you can have some calm clarity to look back at the weekend that was. I like Sunday. Just everyone go nuts on Sunday, and then we reassess on Monday. I love it.
Yeah, it's never a bad thing to maybe take some time to calm down. But I have a feeling people are still quite passionate, I think, about Saturday's show.
I've been kind of removed from the overall discussion. It seems like largely negativity towards the Royal Rumble on Saturday night. I would say mainly focused on the men's match. That seemed to be the center of most people's complaints. And I think it's interesting as well that it's, yes, I have seen some about, who won these matches, which I think you can make logical arguments for why they did. But in the absence of that is like the long list of alternatives that I don't think really existed, and I think does shine a light on the status of some of their everyday roster members of what levels they are perceived to be at or not to be at as well. This is not a case like in years past where like you had that Daniel Bryan year where just everyone was so adamantly behind this one rising star. I don't see that as much this year. Like you can make some cases, but I just don't see them as, it came at the expense of someone who is just undeniable, for instance.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of people were probably upset that two Rumble winners were both people who are part-timers. That to me seemed to be one of the prevailing arguments. And I think you and I, John, perhaps are looking at it more from a business standpoint, and certainly this was a business decision. And I think there is an argument to be made that, hey, like it's sort of a, I don't know, self-fulfilling prophecy when you give your biggest spotlights to people who are the biggest stars, but they're also not people that are constantly on the roster. So how do you build new stars? This has always kind of been an argument that we've been going around for years. Perhaps it's because I understand exactly like the importance of using the spotlight of a Royal Rumble championship to promote a WrestleMania main event, that and because it was quite frankly an expected outcome for me, like for both of us, John, so clearly going in, that it wasn't shocking and in fact felt very sensical to me. But of course, I do understand the complaints and I do understand the arguments, and you can make the argument that could they have given these wins to, say, a Bianca Belair, like, one of the rumored WrestleMania title challengers, or on the other hand, whoever the other person is that might be challenging a Bobby Lashley on the Raw side. You can argue, yeah, for sure. But I didn't have much issue with the outcomes simply because I think I expected them going in. And I know how they do business, so it didn't seem that bad to me. But there's also a lot of negativity, of course, with just the lack of star power in the men's. I think many people agreeing with, I think, the conversation that you and I had, and that it was a match that completely lacked in terms of star power, in terms of surprise. But there's plenty of criticism for the women's Rumble as well. Just I think for people that weren't happy again with perhaps how many viable contenders there really were, and also with the quality of wrestling that was actually in it. And then of course many of the finishes that came out of the show, overall, like people did seem very happy about.
Yeah, with the Ronda one, I would say like once she was in the match, like yes, you could have done the spot where she eliminates Charlotte and then you go with Bianca winning. But I think that really minimizes like all that they have invested. You want to make the biggest splash possible of Ronda Rousey being back. I think anyone watching this sees that Bianca Belair is in a very featured role moving forward. I don't think people have to be concerned about some kind of slight on Bianca Belair. In the men's one, certainly I can see that, but what would be your short list of alternatives to win this match? if not Brock. And I think that's a larger problem. I'm not saying it's not. Just the handling of Big E in the match, I just thought, like, here was a guy that, it was a rather unspectacular elimination by RK Bro, and I think I was very surprised at just how small of a role Big E ended up having in this Royal Rumble, regardless if the Kofi elimination played into any of that at all. At the very least, I would have expected Big E to be there for your final four. And then, like, your other alternatives to win this, like Drew McIntyre, there weren't a whole lot of options, and that, I think, does open up your question of, like, all year long getting your players into certain roles where they're all at least in the conversation to be in this WrestleMania title picture. You want to have as many options as possible. And I think just Saturday was sort of a very a clear picture, looking at up and down, here is this roster all in front of our eyes, and who do we see as viable headliners for your biggest show? It's a very small number, and the men's one more so to me than the women's.
Certainly, yeah. I mean, I think much of the complaint is probably from people that aren't necessarily watching week to week, and many of the people, the Rumble is one of those events where people will tune in occasionally just to kind of catch up. And I think for a lot of people, it was a bit more of a shocking realization of how dire perhaps certain current circumstances are with this roster. Whereas you and I witnessing it every single week, it's like we were able to kind of look at it and say, Brock Lesnar is the best choice in this situation. But I think to a lot of people, they might not be as aware of exactly how lacking in star power this current roster is.
If you're looking at it, no one is going to argue that that's not a problem. I think star creation is the lifeblood of any company, but I think it is different in scale versus 10 to 15 years ago, when having these performers, selling tickets was such a big part of your business. Selling pay-per-views was a monstrous part of your business. So many different aspects of your industry were tied to creating stars and then profiting off of them. Today, it's still a factor. When you have a big star, it's going to increase business, but the baseline is so much higher when you don't have that gun to your head to create a pay-per-view headliner that is going to generate buys for you month after month after month. They're so insulated from that kind of a threat. That's a great business maneuver. So when you look at that, like on a scale of 1 to 10, how big of a problem would you perceive it in WWE of the necessity of creating new stars, knowing that they have uprooted their whole developmental system in the hope of creating stars? It's clearly a directive for them, but how big of a problem do you view that?
I mean, I think it's personally huge, but it has been a problem for years. I think it's been a problem even dating back to like the John Cena days of, the questions being there about like, how are you going to build the next Rock and how are you going to build the next Stone Cold Steve Austin? But I will say, it's not something that's hurt their bottom line at all. It's helped. Like they've only increased as a business over the years. I think WrestleNomics actually, Brandon Thurston on his YouTube channel recently posted a great segment from last night's show where they talk about what is the impact of creative exactly on the health of this company as a whole. And I think I encourage everybody to listen to the conversation, but I think the gist of the argument that I think he was suggesting was that it definitely prevents the company from perhaps reaching its potential and perhaps preventing it from growing. But they've reached a level of self-sufficiency that, creative only has so much impact on. Negative critical reaction only has so much impact on. What we talk about every single day on these is so much revolving around the business moves and the licensing and all that stuff and pandemic crowds affecting touring. I mean, these are ultimately the biggest things that they worry about, and of course that's going to be upsetting to the audience because we watch the shows and we of course care most about the actual creative itself.
Let's not forget that coming out of Saturday, should WrestleMania plans get completely thrown out the window or there's any concern about the card for WrestleMania, we now have an image that every wrestling site can run with that WrestleMania sign on fire. I mean, it's just been tailor-made for sites out there.
It wasn't that spectacular of a fire, though. I mean, it was just kind of like you kind of had to almost peek into it, they should really just set the whole thing on fire for like a promo shot, perhaps.
Well, maybe they'll lean into this branding. Too hot for WrestleMania. Tonight on Raw, they will be in Cincinnati, and it is all of the fallout from Saturday's show. They have announced that Brock Lesnar will choose his WrestleMania opponent. Ronda Rousey is going to be on the show, and they have also noted that Bobby Lashley is now set to defend the WWE Championship in the Elimination Chamber in 3 weeks' time when they go to Saudi Arabia. So not going with the Elimination Chamber to figure out the men's contender for the opposite championship, instead having a title defense in the Elimination Chamber, and therefore they'll have over a month of television to figure out your challenger coming out of February's show.
Yeah. So, something like this tells us that, okay, a championship, what is it? Lashley's opponent will probably be decided after this. And it also makes you wonder if it will be, in fact, Bobby Lashley set to take part in one of the WrestleMania title matches, or could they do a double switch where he loses the belt and then another person challenges the eventual person to win this chamber match?
Yes. It was also reported by The Observer that Shane McMahon not just earmarked for WrestleMania, but also for this event in February. So looking at that, I'm certain Shane McMahon is a possibility for this chamber match. You would think.
Wow.
I would think so.
No, you're right. You are absolutely right.
Like you're probably looking at my guess off the top of my head would be like Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, AJ Styles. I'm most curious to see if they have the. Like, don't you think Omos would have to be one of the 6 if you're looking at a Raw-centric Elimination Chamber match? Like, he would, unless they're just going to pair him off with Damian Priest coming off that elimination. But in theory, if you're looking for 6, I actually just said that word, Austin Theory could actually be one as well in there.
That's very interesting. Yeah. Do they give one of those spots to? I mean, I could definitely see at least 1 or 2 of your rookie prospects, getting those spots. But will Austin Theory be one of them, and will Omos be one of them? I think Omos should. Like if he's somebody that they want to highlight, I think the chamber
and also hide. You can at least hide him in a match like this.
Yeah, exactly. You can,
but you also have to beat Omos. It's not like you can just DQ him or count him out or something like that. You do have to do.
They could DQ him. They can have him counted out. They can have him punch somebody for 5 seconds, way past the referee's discretion, and then, like they do these bullshit finishes all the time.
You're right. I should have just bit my tongue there. Anything is possible. So yeah, there you go. That is what we have. Should be one of the biggest Raws of the year, coming off of the show, of course, with no football and a lot of buzz. I think with Ronda Rousey's return for tonight's event as they kick off their big road to WrestleMania.
Yes, we are officially on the road. The GPS is set. We've all gone to the bathroom beforehand. All right. And we're waiting for our next stop.
Wonderful way. You should be writing the copy for this entire promotion.
I really should.
Shifting focus, there was quite a lot of great wrestling over the weekend from all different points of the globe, but we will focus on the Globe Theater in Los Angeles, where PWG held its Los Angeles tournament on Saturday and Sunday night, highlighted by Daniel Garcia at 20 years of age, Bola, and defeating Speedball Mike Bailey in the final. It sounded like a tremendous tournament over the course of the 2 nights. I heard rave reviews about Speedball and Bandito from the first night, but also hearing like there was nothing close to a bad match on the first night, shockingly. And then on Sunday night, not just the tournament matches, but we had several news and notes coming out of it. The most concerning was an injury to Lio Rush, coming off of a curb stomp spot where it appeared that he injured his shoulder. And it had been noted that after Buddy Matthews had cut a promo, kind of calling this the minor league, some fans did throw some drinks into the ring, and they were later admonished by Excalibur for throwing the drinks into the ring. So we're awaiting an update on Lio Rush. He did post an update stating he was not good, but would be back, and that is all we had heard. So hopefully a quick recovery for Lio Rush. That seemed to be the most the noteworthy injury that came out of either night.
Yeah, absolutely unfortunate. Of course, like this is somebody who's been in the news quite a bit recently, and it looked like, starting from last week with the GCW appearance, being at that point Jonathan Gresham's replacement in a big match. It felt like there was some real positive momentum. That followed by, of course, his announcement of a record deal, which feels pretty unprecedented for a professional wrestler, to get I believe it's Universal that he actually signed with.
He heard Rewind Away last week and said, you know what? I'm shooting for the stars. I want a review from Way, Chris, and Nate.
Well, someday. I mean, so I mean, it's never a positive, of course, to, be injured, but at least he has another creative outlet that he might be able to use this time to focus on. But, definitely bad news. It's a cut in that momentum. And yet, another setback for a guy who seems to, I this is totally I think separate, but, anytime Lio Rush is in the news now, it's kind of met with a combination of excitement for the match he's about to have, but also there's a level of, I think, of the audience that's kind of tired of hearing about this person.
That was the reaction he got on Saturday from the live report I got. It was very pro, not very pro, but a totally mixed bag. There were those that loved Lio, but those that were very negative towards him from the audience. That is how they at least responded on Saturday's show.
And I apologize for stuttering, because it's I'm trying to put it in a way that's sensitive to the reasons why this man had to take so many exits. But what I'm trying to say is it's yet another kind of break in the momentum that he's been trying to build, and it's yet another return that he's going to be building up for. And yeah, again, this one completely out of his control. Will the audience have that patience, for the next time he comes back? I mean, the man's such an incredible performer. I would say the answer is yes. But again, it's another unfortunate kind of stop in his progression.
Yeah, and I mean, the injury was significant enough. They had to do a very rare disqualification finish in the match with Rush and Buddy Matthews, resulting in Lio Rush winning by DQ, but of course it was Matthews advancing in the tournament. The other major, I would say the major spot coming out of either night was seen on Sunday night. This was during the 8-man tag involving wrestlers that had been eliminated in the first round, and it saw Jack Cartwheel leaping off of the balcony of the Globe Theater, and then in midair, Blake Christian flying off of the turnbuckle to deliver a cutter in midair. This thing was absolutely stunning, and I cannot believe that this topped the Sammy Guevara Cody Rhodes cutter.
Ooh, so it did, eh? I mean, the fact that we even
dude, this involved a balcony. I'm sorry. That to me was checkmate. It was the timing of this one. You can see it was not perfect, but it was utterly spectacular. And this to me was the degree of difficulty on both was incredible. But I think this one, maybe I'm just partial to the fact that this is also camera footage that I think makes it almost more like the secret that got out.
And for people watching live, you can find this video of it on Blake Christian's Twitter. I don't want to play it just because I know PWG is very sensitive about even people having their cell phones recording all this stuff. But I'll say the level of difficulty might even be tougher on this one, because he has to do it on an opponent in midair.
Can I just say that this is the greatest commercial for these DVDs? For them to listen, I understand that this is your intellectual property. You can police it however you want. This clip being out there is the greatest advertisement for the shows this year that come and go so quickly. This isn't even giving away a finish. Your own account is giving away the winner. So at that point, I mean, I would say that would be more detrimental to somebody. You're completely reliant on people's word of mouth of how great the quality is. And seeing a clip like this, to me, only encourages people to buy the shows when they're out.
Oh, I'm not arguing against that. I also think it's impossible to police your crowd from not taking their cell phones out to take a video or footage of something of a live wrestling event in 2022. You're just not asking for it. It's getting more people talking about Bola, yeah. But by the time the DVDs come out, I do wonder if like the interest will still be there, especially if it's just
It's
one
very
single
hard to
spot.
maintain. This is like you have a 24-hour window in this news cycle of being the hot match or the hot spot that is going to circulate everywhere. I say you have a 24-hour window. Very hard to maintain that kind of buzz for an event so that when these come out, yes, you will have your hardcores that certainly buy these. But it's very tough. We've talked about the PWG subject many times.
I mean, do we know if there's a certain window that they have to wait before they even put this stuff on VOD? I know they might not be able to do live, but like, can you say, okay, the next day you can watch it on VOD, or do they have to wait for the physical release before doing that?
Well, it's like they typically. I'm not speaking 100%. I'm just going off the top of my head here, but traditionally it's like the DVD comes out and then it appears like they have the deal where they eventually end up on high spots.
Yeah,
but there's a significant lag. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it just kind of makes me wonder, like, because you're right. Like, I think they have 24 hours and then maybe even a week, all right, of buzz stemming off of this. And if they can't do live, can they at least do maybe like a few day delay? You know, can they minimize?
Well,
that?
it's like the high spot stuff. It's like way down the road that it ends up there. Like pretty much to do it legally. It's like you wait for the DVD, and it's going to be weeks for that before it's released, and then you've got to order it and physically get the copy as well.
Right. Okay.
Anyway, so that was the tournament coming out of the weekend. Some other significant matches I just want to mention from over the weekend. The RevPro card had Will Ospreay and Michael Oku, and Ospreay stated it might have been the best match of his career, which I don't care if that's hyperbole, if that's even in the ballpark. That sounds like an absolutely incredible match. And then you also had the match involving Gabriel Kidd and Francesco Akira, who had previously been in the junior heavyweight division in All Japan. I heard live reports that was a spectacular match at RevPro. And then Stardom had a solid event. I did see the 30-minute draw between Julia and Mayu Iwatani, which was a spectacular 30-minute match. Iwatani is maybe my favorite babyface to watch in any company. Julia took like 95% of this match, and it's just Iwatani who would just constantly survive and keep going, and then has this big dramatic kick out at one super late into the match. And then you had this very scary moment where Iwatani is going for a top rope moonsault, and she's just trying to keep her balance and executes the moonsault, but just nails Julia coming down and just busted her open. It appeared to be her chin, just a lot of blood. And then and it was right near the ending where they hit the time limit. But this was a pretty spectacular 30 minutes, followed by the Shuri Mirai World of Stardom match, which I have not seen yet, but I heard that was incredible as well. It sounded like an amazing show based off of Karen Peterson's report on the site. So if you want to go check out the report, I think she recommended every single match on the show and then highly recommended the final two, which are getting a lot of buzz. So, hey, if you did not enjoy the Royal Rumble, there was some unbelievable wrestling throughout the weekend at many different parts of the world.
Yep, a lot of it out there. And again, postwrestling.com for Karen Peterson's report. Shout out to Karen in the chat room right now.
And the last thing is that Ring of Honor has announced the first inductees into their Hall of Fame. They are going to be announcing inductees throughout the month of February. And the first inductees are Mark and Jay Briscoe. And what they're going to do, they're not doing like an actual ceremony. What they're going to be doing is like a Hall of Fame special that's going to air on their syndicated television on the weekend of March the 5th. And there's going to be inductees announced over the next 3 Mondays, I believe. And they are being smart about this. Like each week they're going to announce someone, and then that inductee is going to be the subject of their television on the weekend, which we know they're in their hiatus. So it's coming up with a creative way to showcase their library rather than just put archived matches together every weekend throughout the month. So this weekend, it'll be like a Briscoes 60-minute episode. Next week, it'll be the next inductee. So, I think it's a smart idea for the way your television's not producing new content at the moment.
I think it is great. Yeah, I mean, we've been talking a lot about the Indie Wrestling Hall of Fame that just took place last week, and this feels like something that probably should have been a long time coming. This is a company now with over 20 years of history. And if TNA has had their Hall of Fame for as many years that it already has, I think there's be just as much interest in the Ring of Honor one. It's an excuse for them to be able to bring back so many legends that have previously been attached to their company. I mean, let's toss out some names right now. I would suggest, I think Gabe Sapolsky would be certainly a candidate.
Okay, Gabe Sapolsky is the first person many people are going to arrive at, especially if you're talking non-wrestlers. How do you do a 60-minute TV show based around Gabe Sapolsky?
Well, his best booked matches, right? They're like, or the best runs. I mean, essentially, you'd be talking about the best of, Ring of Honor of whatever eras that he's doing, or
Gabe's favorite matches.
Exactly, yeah. Or maybe just a 60-minute interview with Gabe.
Honestly, like if you were going to announce Gabe Sapolsky as like your final inductee at the end, and you announce Gabe will be at Supercard of Honor to accept this, that would be a really cool idea to do.
Yep, and of course, another free agent out there with so much history attached to Ring of Honor, of course, is Samoa Joe. Can you see him being a first year inductee?
Yeah. To be honest, I certainly could. Like when you look at like that very first main event, I mean, they now have the ability to do something with a Bryan Danielson. If it's just accepting an award, sending in a speech, I mean, that's no different than what they did for Final Battle, where you heard from Danielson and you heard from Punk. But yeah, you could honor like Daniels, Loki, and Danielson as that very first main event. So, that's you have plenty of options. Like this is an inaugural Hall of Fame class. So, I mean, the field is wide open.
I think it's a great way to bring more positive buzz and energy to the Ring of Honor brand by, again, reminding the audience of the really rich and positive history that it has and how much of it is tied to the modern stars of today. So as a sort of like a promotional tool for the company, I think it's very good. So we'll see if the event turns out well, and we'll see if the first class is satisfying. I mean, they have a lot to live up to, I would say, in terms of expectation.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, that's going to wrap everything up. We're back tonight.
A few things here in the chat room just before we get out of here, John. Just I'm going through the chat room, and thank you everybody for joining us, whether or not you're in the YouTube or if you're watching us again on Twitter or on Facebook, where we are all available right now. First, we go to Charles Provost, who says, "Who is your dream match up for Hook in AEW? Do you have a dream match for Hook?"
A dream match for Hook. I mean, he's faced like 3 people so far, so I mean, the roster is kind of wide open.
Bryan Danielson.
Sure. Bryan Danielson. I mean, you have the whole roster that you can come up with. Like, really, I'm not so much looking at like one in particular match for Hook. I'm just looking at when they take him out of sort of this level where it's largely showcase matches, and I think it's going to be a slow road of like it's being strategic. They are not even putting him on Dynamite at the moment. It is like strictly Rampage, which kind of follows this pattern that they're doing. Like Moxley's return, the matches have been left to Rampage so far. It is interesting to see some semi exclusivity towards Rampage, and it seems like Hook. That's the plan. You want to watch Hook in a match, you have to tune in on a Friday night.
By the time Hook is I think seasoned enough to the point where he is even doing dream matches and being presented in the main event, I mean, the crop of the next generation in AEW is going to look very different from who the main eventers are right now. So, Dex in the chat room is suggesting Daniel Garcia. I could certainly see, in 3 years' time, that being something that you'd be able to headline a pay-per-view with potentially. Maybe longer, or maybe not at their current trajectory, right? So, and of course, we also have from Dex, who simply sends a $4 super sticker. So thank you very much for the support to everybody.
What's a super sticker?
I think it's just like a little badge that shows up in the chat room, and really, it's just a way I think for people to kind of show their support. So if you're enjoying the badge? I'm actually controlling all of this through StreamYard, so I can't really see the sticker right now.
Oh,
but
that's unfortunate.
I hope it's a nice sticker.
It's not just a sticker; it's a super sticker.
Super stickers, yeah, very super. So again, thanks to everybody for joining us, and this is fun. Do you want to talk about anything that's coming up in the schedule this week, John?
Yes, we are. Well, we'll be live tonight, 11:15 Eastern, for Double Ice Cap and Espresso members, and it's a brand new month on Tuesday. In case you have been ignoring your calendar, it's February 1st tomorrow. So that is the best time to sign up for the Post Wrestling Cafe. It allows you all of our bonus shows that we do. And I know you love watching us, but if you like to hear these daily news updates in your podcast app of choice, the one way to do that is through the Post Wrestling Cafe feed. And of course, we will have a lot going on in the month of February, including multiple editions of Rewind Away.
That is correct, yeah. And I believe it's, what is it? We've got, the quarterly reports this week too, John. So Brandon Thurston will be joining us later on this week on the Post Daily News Update. And then we've also, the Up Next Rumble took place yesterday. I encourage everybody to go check that out. That's up right now, I think, in archive form on their Twitch and also their YouTube. So it was a lot of fun. I won't spoil it, John, about who won. I can tell you it wasn't me.
Well, you just spoiled that.
Well, I'm only but a very small portion of this very illustrious event, including a very interesting person by the name of Extinctor making an appearance. That's
who eliminated you?
He did not eliminate me, but it was a very mysterious figure that showed up and did very well in the Rumble, I will say. But all I'm saying is there are surprises to be had when you watch this show. So shout out to those guys and Dickie Bird Media, of course.
All right. So Distinct made you extinct in the Rumble is the headline. Well, you can check out the Up Next Rumble. It is available now on Twitch. Check it out. A marathon Rumble. See how Long Way fared. What was his road towards the elimination? You can check out all of that and all of our shows. You can check out in the schedule coming up this week. A Jun Akiyama biography dropping on the long and winding Royal Road this week. These series of biographies have been very well received. So WH Park will be dropping another one this week alongside Jojo Remy. So that is it. We will speak with you tonight on Rewind to Raw.